I'm John Berry, and instead of giving a witty and quick introduction, let's just jump right on into my review of DuckTales Season 3, Episode 14, The Split Sword of Swanstantine. So, very much Swanstantine, it's a play off of Constantine, and they're of course in a city that is a play off of Istanbul, which used to be known as Constantinople. What was the oh man, I'm trying to remember the play. But it's very much the name of the city is a play off of Istanbul. I thought they had the name in the description. Oh well. We're just going to move on from there. But very much they're looking for 3 pieces of a mystical sword that belonged to Swanstantine, and that was divided upon his death into 3 different areas. Basically, the heavens, the earth, and the underworld. Which basically means a tall tower, the walkway, and a den of spices. I mean, that's literally where the sword's hiding. Yeah, I should have said spoiler overload, but this is me. I do this. But they divide into basically 4 teams. 3 teams go after each of the pieces, and Scrooge is keeping one Flower Agent distracted. It's all of the kids, Huey, Dewey, Louie, Webby, Violet, and Lena, all of them. Because apparently, right before they go on this adventure, they were having a sleepover, and Scrooge said, everyone in the plane. So, everyone got in the plane, which just surprised Scrooge that Lena and Violet were there, like he wasn't expecting them. But, it's actually a good thing they were there, and they actually do team off and to use their own inner strengths to find the pieces. As I think most people kind of do expect, at this point is Dewey and Webby team off, and of course they get their piece. Dewey's very confident when he can't see and manages to get up all the way, but once his sight is restored, because there was a flashbang grenade, he lost all his confidence. But don't worry, he regained his confidence and was able to instruct Webby at the right time to kick out to send the second flash grenade back at the Flower Agent, who was also trying to get their piece of the sword, which was the hilt. And they get the sword. And of course, eventually the effects of the flashbang grenade also wears off for Webby as well, and they can see again. And then, of course, Louie and Violet team up, and they go looking for the hilt of the sword, and they go into basically a den of spices. So, and apparently in the DuckTales universe there's an underworld spice trade. Yeah, let's just go for it. And apparently Louie has been concocting a fictional identity for him that is beyond belief. And by the way, it breaks down. He also creates one for Violet too. But anyhow, it breaks down, but then Violet is able to quickly spin it around to make it actually where they use the identity because their real identities were way more impressive. I mean, it was a great way. And also, Louis has a very low tolerance for spices because he tries to get out of eating spices. And in order to trick people into thinking he hadn't. But Vi was able to eat them all because apparently, once she has a Spice of the Week Club membership, so obviously she probably likes spicy food. One, she apparently knows a technique for dealing with them, and also as soon as they were out of sight, she drinks a bunch of water. Which, no, you want something. You don't want water. Dairy products will do better than milk. That much I do know. Dairy products do better, like milk, will do much better than water. I'm just saying. It has to do with proteins and all that stuff. It's chemistry. But yeah, the Flower Agent though going against it is it's John D. Rockaduck, the playoff of Rockefeller. Yeah, and apparently when he was cryogenically frozen, all his taste buds burnt off, so he can eat spice no problem. But Louie and Violet eventually and successfully get the hilt because Violet was able to eat all the spice without any apparent problems. So that's pretty impressive. And then the last pair to team up is Lena and Huey. Oh, I should also say, because I forgot to mention it, Webby and Dewey were going against the Gandra D, in case you're curious. So, who had technology and stuff. But so going back now, because I forgot to mention that earlier, Huey and Lena are looking for the blade, which is in the ground, and they're going up against Steelbeak. And then Lena uses her powers to basically somewhat freeze time, but freeze time just in their heads. It's kind of weird. And so what Huey does, he uses that time to play out every possible scenario. But then we discover there's a part of him that he has buried and locked inside of his head, which is basically his probably the best way of describing it is his duck rage. Okay, he calls it Count something or Duke something, I forget exactly, but very much he does not like this part of himself. But he eventually does decide to use it and make peace with it in order to defeat and to control it to defeat Steelbeak, which freaks Steelbeak out, by the way. How Huey goes about doing it reminds me very much of how Donald and even Della can fight at times, especially Donald when he's enraged. This is very much his duck side, the duck family side of him. His uncle, his mother. That he has buried that part of him away, but it's there, and he comes to terms with it and uses it to defeat Steelbeak with the help of Lena, who coaches him through it, who also has her own demons in herself that she's not super proud of. Though I do want to say, couldn't Lena have used magic to somehow stop Steelbeak? But I think it was actually more important to get this important character development for Huey rather than making the most expedient fight. Huey, I think, needed this important character development because, and probably more than any of the other characters, he's been portrayed as maybe a bit too one-dimensional. He's still way more 3D than his 80s incarnation, but he definitely needed this more character development. And this, I think, was very good. And this season is also expected to provide a bit more character development for Huey as well, because the other two triplets were featured earlier for their main character development. So I think it's actually a good thing that we are getting it. Even though it's not necessarily the easiest route, I think it's the better story-driven route. And in the end, they defeat the Flower Agents. Even though they allowed the Flower Agents to assemble the sword would not have let them use it unless they, had, basically conquer their use and know their inner strengths and all that. It's very much the kind of only he who is worthy shall wield it kind of deal. It's very much that. Which, when you get magic involved, so be it. But that's actually all I have for this review. Not, because there is so much more I can talk about besides the parodies of history. But I spent some time, of course, talking about Huey's development and how I think it was very good that we got to see this other side of him, and this side of him that is very much a part of his family, especially with Donald and Della. But the other triplets, we get character development for them as well. Louis learns that sometimes the truth is more powerful than a lie, which I think is a good lesson for him to learn. And of course, I just want to really briefly mention Star Trek and the character of Garak from Deep Space Nine, who is infamous for lying. But also, when he does tell the truth, it's very important to listen, kind of deal. So, going back to Louis, he learned that the truth is more powerful than the lie. So sometimes you may need the lie in order to make the truth more powerful, which is maybe not the best message to speak of. But if we solely focus on the truth is more powerful than a lie, then I think that's a very good lesson for Louis to learn. As for Dewey, I don't really think he learns that much of a lesson, to be frank. We've gotten a lot of character development for him so far. We learned a lot about his character. He's learned a lot. He's confident, yes. maybe he needs to be a bit more confident, learn to have more confidence in himself instead of doubt at certain times. Like when he couldn't see, he was full of confidence, but the minute his sight regained and he saw how high up he was and how much danger he was in, all of a sudden he lost that confidence. But I really don't think we were intended to get that much of a character development out of doing this episode. I think it actually was intended for Webby. Webby learning, to be more confident in herself. She does have some self-doubts. We saw that in the previous episode, the Golden Treasury of, or whatever, I forget the exact name of the episode, even though I watched it the other day. She very much still needs to learn more about her own confidence. She does appear very confident, but it does also seem that her confidence is a bit of a facade, if you will. It's a way of dealing with her lack of confidence. But in this episode, she learns to actually be confident in the same way that Dewey is confident, even though he couldn't see. Very much blind faith, if you will. And it all works out in the end. I very much think with Webby, as I said, her character is learning to be more confident in herself and in her own abilities, even if she doesn't have the full picture. And Lena, I don't think we get too much character development out of Lena. She was in this episode more used as a message to teach Huey his character lesson. Now that makes sense because in an earlier episode of the season we got a lot, and I mean a lot of character development in Lena when she faced up against the Phantom Blood and had to deal with Magical Dispel once again. So Lena has gotten a lot of character development without a doubt in this season already. And as for Violet, I have a feeling we're not going to see that much character development with her yet. We will, I'm pretty sure, but this episode I think was laying the groundwork for more about her existing character before we get that character development. Because right now, of all the youngsters, she's the one we know the least about. So it makes sense that we need to learn a few more things about her before we get her character development. Very much kind of the same thing with Lena. Each episode after she was introduced, we learn a bit more things about her connections with Magica. And only now that she's free of Magica are we really getting character development of her. We even got character development of her beforehand, very much in The Secret Bin of Scrooge McDuck. But we had to learn about her as a character before we could get her character to develop. And we're getting, I think, the exact same thing with Violet as well. But that's all I have for you today. That is truly the end of my review. So thank you for watching. I do hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section down below what did you think of this episode. I would love to hear from you. Also, feel free to check out any of the links in the description. We have my social media, Facebook and Twitter. There's also my Discord server, my Patreon page if you'd like to support this channel. And there's also my blog where I talk about things other than Star Wars and DuckTales and that. So go check that out if you are so interested. Also, if you haven't subscribed to this channel already, please do so and ring that bell so you can stay up to date on all that I do. And also feel free to check out either the video or the playlist on screen now. And as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. Have a good one. Bye!